Today we're going to end up making something that looks like this. One of these objects is called a Turner cube. I think they're a lot of fun to look at. They're really fun to make in Fusion 360, and more importantly, they're really fun to make on one of our machines that we have in our shop, our 5-axis CNC machine. And who knows, maybe that'll be a project that you choose in order to make. But let's go ahead and talk about how do we make one of these things right now. So just kind of giving you a preview, this is what it will end up looking like. It's kind of like a cube inside of a cube, inside of a cube, inside of a cube. All right, so again, just like always, today's going to be a follow along with me kind of lesson. We're going to learn some new tools, and I bet if you look down in my timeline right now, you'll see something that you don't recognize. Sketches, we recognize sketches. Extrudes, we recognize extrudes. What we might not recognize, though, are these two things right here, these circle patterns. So that's really going to be the main point of what we're doing right here, is to learn how to use these circle patterns so that when you're designing things, you can quickly copy 3D features without having to repeat a process again and again and again. This is actually pretty quick to make, especially after you get the hang of these circle patterns. So let's go ahead and get in with that. All right. As always, we're going to start off here in our data panel, and we want to get into our Learn Fusion project. So go ahead and get in there. And right now you can see I have the two projects that we've made, our CMS sketches and our CMS 3D objects and our initials. We're going to create a new folder. Remember, please pause and complete along with me if you need to. Make sure that your screen looks just like mine. It's the home, and then you're in the Learn Fusion project. Inside the Learn Fusion project, we are going to create a new folder. We will call this one Turner Cube, Turner Cube, just like that. And I will open up my Turner Cube folder by double-clicking it, and make sure that you also have a blank untitled design. You can see right now I have this other Turner cube that I've made. I'm going to click over here on this tab to make a new design, and that makes an untitled design. Let's go ahead and make sure that this design is saved in our Turner cube folder. So we'll click this save button, and then it's asking me where to save it. Make sure that your location is exactly like mine. Learn Fusion Turner Cube, and I will just call this design name Turner Cube, and I will click save. Okay, there we go. I've got a Turner Cube design. Let's go ahead and start making some stuff. I'm going to create a sketch, and I'm going to go to the origin in my browser. Remember, this is my browser folder. And let's give myself some more room on the screen. I don't need the data panel right now, so I'm going to close that out. So here we are. I'm going to place my new sketch on the XZ plane like I typically do. All right, and you can see I have a sketch grid out on the XZ plane. I will click the top-down view. I'm going to right-click on my view cube to start off with and make sure that I have perspective with ortho faces. That's my preferred view. I would really caution you to make sure that you don't have just plain orthographic turned on. Some people can really understand things in orthographic, but I've found that most people cannot. Orthographic is great if you're trying to see exactly how far above or to the side one object is from another, no matter how close or far away it is from you. But I always use perspective with ortho faces. That means it only goes into that two-dimensional ortho view only if you click on the view cube on one of the faces there, like top, like I just clicked on top. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get into making our sketch. It actually starts with a very, very simple sketch. We're going to go down to Create. We're going to go to Rectangle, and we are going to do a center rectangle. We are going to put the center of the rectangle just right there on the origin of the sketch. So I'll click there, and then I'll just make it any size. And it is unconstrained at the moment, so I'm going to get out of my rectangle tool by hitting escape. And if you remember, I want to constrain it. I want to make it a certain size, and that's with the dimension tool. So I'm going to hit D on my keyboard for dimension tool. There we go. We have the dimension tool open. I'm going to say, okay, this side should be 50. And then I'll also say, and now I've kind of done something new. In the past, I went corner to corner. I'm showing you kind of a new trick right now. You can just click on a side that you already have, like a line that's already in existence. And then I'm going to pull the label away just a little bit. And then I'll type in the number 50 there as well. So that just saves a little bit of time. And there we go. We have the only thing that we need to put in this sketch. I'm going to click Finish Sketch. And then over here you'll see if I open up my Sketches folder, and you should too in my browser, I have a new sketch called Sketch 1, and it has the red lock. That means it is 100% fully constrained. I'm going to slowly click on that 2 times, just regular click, and I'm going to rename that. We'll just call that Cube Base. That's what we'll call our sketch. And now let's 3Dify this. I'm also going to show you a new kind of extrusion here, because I want to keep the origin, this guy right here, exactly in the middle of my design for the entire time. So if I would, and I'll show you the wrong way first. So if I went and clicked extrude, now remember, this is the wrong way. Don't do what I'm doing right now. If I would to extrude that up now, to make it a cube, we know it's 50 wide by 50 deep. That means I would need to make it 50 tall as well. Okay. That is the wrong way to do it. Let me turn my sketch back on, because now my origin is on the bottom of my cube. I need it so that the origin is in the middle of my cube, and it's not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my timeline. I'm going to rewind time, and that gets rid of my sketch. That means I just brought this little marker back before my extrude. And now I can even right-click on that extrude, and I can delete it. Okay, I don't want that extrude anymore. What I do want is I'm going to go back to extrude, so I can either click on it from up at the top or hit E on my keyboard. Let's look at some options over here in the extrude menu. Our start is the profile plane. Yes, we want our extrusion to start there on that plane that we drew. Our direction, though, we're going to change. So we have some options. We can go one-sided, two-sided, or symmetric. A two-sided means that you can control how far up and how far down it goes. A symmetric extrude, this is the one I'm going to choose, because it's going to extrude the same amount away from the top and the bottom. Okay, I'm going to do something right now, and I hope you pause and do it like right after me, because a lot of people miss this typically. I have 2 ways that I can measure that extrusion. I can do a half length. That means I'd only type in the number for half of the extrusion, or I can do a whole length. Because remember, our extrusion is going to go out from the, and let me show you by dragging this arrow a little bit. You can see when I drag it up, it creates up and down extrusions. So I typically use the whole length because I want to know all together how long or how tall should this thing be. And we know that this should be 50. So down here in distance or over here, I can type in the number 50. And we're not going to have any taper angle, and I'm going to go and just kind of, before I click OK, I'm going to look around and make sure that looks just like a cube, and indeed it does. That is very much a cube. Boom. All right. I'm going to spin around until I see the front face, and I'm going to look directly at the front face. And let's do this. Let's go ahead and turn off that cube-based sketch. So I don't want that line in there. I'm going to show you another fun thing. We're going to create a sketch, and we can actually create sketches on the faces of objects. So here's my cube, and if I click on front, this is the front face of my cube. I'm no longer on one of those XZ or XY planes. I mean, I could put a sketch there, but when I hover my mouse over the cube face, it's going to let me put a sketch there. So let's go ahead and put a sketch onto that face. Great, and I'm going to go ahead and click finish. Well, I'm not going to finish a sketch. I need to draw something on there first. So let me show you what we're going to do. Now, if I pop back over here, you can see here's our finished product, and let me find the front of this cube just so we can maybe make a guess as to what we're going to draw. You can see there are 3 circles here. Yes, they are cut out in different depths, but that's really all I did as I drew a sketch, and I'll open that up here, and you can see I only have 3 sketches here with 3 circles in it. So I'll flip back to my design. That was just to show you that you shouldn't have a finished Turner cube yet. I'm going to click on, let's make a circle here, and I'm going to put that circle with its center right on the origin, and I'm going to make that circle however big. Okay. I'm going to show you another kind of fun trick here. If I type in on my keyboard the letter S, that lets me search for a lot of different things. I'm going to search for this, and if you need to pause after I spell it out, go ahead and do that. But I'm going to search for parameters, P-A-R-A-M-E-T-E-R-S. And then I should have this option for change parameters if I click on that. So in the past, we've seen that when I create a dimension, we've talked about that's basically creating a rule. Well, this parameters menu that I'm looking at right now is basically all the rules for my design. So if I get in here, you can see that I have model parameters and Turner cube. That's this component right here in my browser that my mouse is over right now. So I'll hit this little arrow next to it so I can see some other things. So here's my sketch for cube base, and here's my extrude. Well, let's go ahead and look at cube base. And then you can see I have a D1 and a D2, and they're both 50 millimeters. It's going to be important that I remember what that is, what these are. So that very first one, 50 millimeters, is called D1. That's its name. And I can even just go ahead and click on that, and I can say, well, let's just go cube and underscore length. And so I just renamed that cube length. And let's go ahead and rename the other one cube width. And now if I pop into my extrude, you can see I have some other things here. I have a D5, which is also 50 millimeters. Well, that's the height of my cube. So I'm going to click on D5 and call that cube height. All right, so those are just some easy to remember names. And we're going to see why I did that in just a second here. I'll go ahead and click OK. This circle, I want it to be 90% of this face. And so that means, let's go ahead and see what I mean here. So I'm going to hit D on my keyboard. We're going to change the size of the circle. I'm just going to click on that circle. And then you can see it wants me to add a dimension here. And remember, it doesn't matter where you put your label. But I'm going to start typing, let's go ahead and cube underscore length. And you can see it turns black. That means it recognizes the name. We've just basically created a variable. So there's actually programming involved in 3D design, but we won't get too much into that. So there is my cube length, which is from this corner of the cube to that corner of the cube. That is 50 millimeters. I wanted 90% of that, so I'm going to go cube length times, and 90% as a decimal is 0.9. And then I'm going to hit enter. And then you can see my dimension here is constrained by well, it has this little fx. That means we used math to create that dimension. Okay. Let's go ahead now and bring up those parameters again. So I'm going to hit S on my keyboard and I'll type in parameters again. I'll change that. Okay, and if I go into this sketch 2, which is the one I'm working in right now, you can see I have cube length times 0.9, and that guy's named D7. So what I could do, let's just go ahead and call this guy big circle. Big underscore circle. And I'll hit enter, and I'll click OK. All right, so basically to make the other two circles, I want to take this thing and divide it into thirds. So I'm going to create another circle. I'm going to start it at the center, and I'm going to make it however big for right now. I'll hit escape, and now I'll use my dimension tool, which is D on my keyboard, and let's give this circle a dimension. Remember, I could put the label anywhere. All right, here's the dimension we're going to give it. We're going to type in big underscore circle, or whatever you named it, and we're going to say times, and then I did parentheses, so I have big circle asterisk, which is shift and 8, that's the multiplication symbol that you can see right here. And then I did a parenthesis because we're going to go times 2 divided by that division symbol. Remember, that's the question mark without hitting shift. 3 parenthesis. Basically, I've said, hey, we're going to make this new circle 2/3 of our big circle. And then I'll hit enter. So you can see I took this 45 and I split it into 3, and this new circle has 2/3 of that, or 2 of those pieces. And we're going to create one more circle here. Okay, and again, I'm just going to put it on the origin, click anywhere, and I'm going to dimension it. And I'm going to put its label somewhere. And then again, I'm going to type big circle times. Now, I want this to be smaller than the last one that I made. And that last one I made was 2/3. And so this time I'm going to type 1/3 or 1/3 parenthesis. Remember, pause and see what I'm doing if you need to. I'm going to hit enter, and voila, I have all of my circles. I'm going to finish my sketch, and let's rename a couple things right now. So sketch 2, I'm going to rename that to circles, and I want to make sure, yep, it has the red lock. It is 100% fully constrained. And I'm going to get in here into bodies, and I'm going to rename body 2, and let's call that cube. All right, now, if we look over here at what I end up with, I bet you can see what's going on here. We're going to take and we're going to use extrude cuts in order to make all of these. Okay, remember, this is the example. You should not have this. And right here, what I'm looking at, this is what you should have, okay? See, I was just flipping tabs at the top of the screen. All right, let's go ahead and hit E for extrude on our keyboard. Let's start out by extruding this guy right here, okay? And this is going to be a bit of a strange number that I type in here. But I want this to be, let's type S, and I'm actually going to get out of that. I need to remember the name of some parameters here. So I'm going to hit S and type in parameters because I want to remember the name. Okay, so I had cube length and cube width and cube height. Okay, so I'll use any one of those 3. I'll go cube length. Okay, I'll click OK. So sorry, I haven't done my extrude yet. So now I'm going to do it for real. So E on my keyboard for extrude. I'm going to choose the middle circle, and I'm going to say cube underscore width. All right. This is going to look really weird, but I'm going to go to the beginning of that with my cursor. I'm using the arrows on my keyboard to move my cursor around inside of here. And I'm going to put a parenthesis at the beginning. So that's going to be cube width divided by 4. And then I'm going to do another parenthesis, the closed parenthesis. And then I'm going to go multiply, which is Shift and 8. And we're going to multiply that by 1.5. I played around with the number to make the best Turner cube, and that turns out to be it. Oh, but I don't want that guy sticking out. Uh-oh. So what I need to do is, you can see down here in my timeline, so if yours is cut in, you don't need to do what I'm about ready to do. But mine did not cut in, it stuck out. So what I'm going to do is find that extrusion, which is right here, the last thing in my timeline. I'm going to right-click on it, and I'm going to edit that feature. And this should not have been a join, it should have been a cut. So I'm going to choose cut instead. And you can see it says, hey, we didn't find anything to cut into. And that's because my distance, which was that really weird number I typed in, is positive. So in order, now remember, yours might have cut in. If yours cut in, you're good to go. Mine didn't, so what I'm going to do is go right to the very beginning of my parentheses, and I'm going to make that negative, just like that. And then you should see in the preview it's going to cut something in, and I will click OK. And now you can see that that very first hole is created. I want to bring that sketch back, so I'll turn on the circle sketch again, because now I need to extrude the other 2 circles. So basically, from the top of that extrusion all the way to the bottom of that extrusion, I want to divide that distance up into thirds as well. So I will hit E on my keyboard for extrude again. Now, this guy should be 2/3 of what we just did. So I clicked cancel because what I'm going to do, what I'll do is I'll go S for search. I'll type in parameters again. And let's find that extrude that we just performed, which looks like it named it extrude 3. And yeah, you can see there's that really weird thing that I typed in. And it's called D10. I'm going to call that big cut. That's what I called that one. So I'll click OK. And here's why I did that. Because on this new extrude, going to do it for real this time. I click that second circle, and the distance is going to be negative to make it cut. And then I'm going to do parentheses. We'll type in big cut or whatever you named yours. Oh, and I don't even need those parentheses, sorry. Sorry, we're going to go negative big cut. Uh-oh. And you can see negative big cut actually sticks out. So again, you're going to have to look and see what yours is doing. But if I just do regular big cut, yep. If I do positive big cut, it goes down. Negative for me goes up. Now that might not be true for you. So pay attention to what yours is doing. So I just went big cut here, and I'm going to go times, and now I'll use the parentheses, 2 divided by 3. So we're going to make this second cut 2/3 of the big cut. And then I'll hit enter. And you can see, yeah, hey, look, it's the second cut is not as deep as the first one. It's 2/3 as deep. And that means our last cut should be 1/3. So I'll go extrude. I'll do the outside circle. And now I'll type in, all right, this one's going to be big cut times, and then, okay, actually I'm going to go back to big cut and make sure that it is going down. Yep, it is. It's doing the cut operation, and I can see in my preview it's cutting down. So we're going to go big cut times 1, and then I did times parenthesis 1/3. And then I'll hit enter, and then I'm going to turn my circle sketch off, and you can see I have the first side all the way done. Now, I don't want to do that 5 more times for the other 5 sides of my cube, so I'm going to show you a tool that will repeat what we just did very quickly. So we should be in solid mode right now. You can see that the word solid is underlined over here. And I hear all of my solid tools. I'm going to go to create. And I am going to go down here and choose the pattern option. And you can see there are different patterns I can use. The pattern that we're going to use is a circle pattern. All right? Because we're going to spin these cuts, these extrusions, around an axis. So over here in my circle pattern menu, let's make sure that I have the right things chosen. I don't want faces. I want features. Those are timeline features. So now it says objects. It wants me to select some objects. I'm going to go down into my timeline, and I'm going to click those last 3 extrudes that I did to make the circles. So I'll click 1, 2, 3. Okay. So you can see it selected my 3 extrusions. Now it says, hey, what axis do you want to spin these around? So I'm going to click on that select arrow. And if I look very carefully at my view cube, if I want these to basically spin around to go from the front and then put one on the right and put one on the back and put one on the left, you can see as I'm spinning my cube around, what is that really spinning around? It's spinning around this y-axis. So I will go here into my origins folder and I will find my y-axis and I will click on that. And you can see it's trying to copy it, but boy, does it look wrong right now. And that's because it's trying to make 3 copies of it. So 1, 2, 3. But there are 4 sides to that 4 sides of my cube that I want to put it around. So I'm going to change this quantity number from 3. Just click and make it 4. And there you go. Now you can see it's trying to put one of those on each side of the cube. And I will click OK. And you can see it cuts those away. And now we just want it to wrap the other way around now too. So I can do that or either around one of my other axes now, either my z-axis or my x-axis. So we'll have to figure out which one that belongs to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and do another create, and I will go to pattern again, and I'll do another circle pattern. I'm going to make sure again that it's features, and I'm going to select those 3 extrudes in the timeline again. 1, 2, 3. And you can see, looking at my view cube, to get it to go over the top, I would need it to get over this x-axis right here. Now remember, yours might be different. You may not have placed your original sketch on the ZX plane, and if you didn't, it's going to look a little bit different. Okay, but so you need to pay attention to where yours is rotating. But basically you could see I have this guy over here on the left. And that means if I rotate it around this x-axis, it will go over the top, which is what I want. So my axis I'm going to select is my x-axis. Again, yours might be different. And yep, you can see that's kind of in the right direction. And again, I don't want 3, I want 4. And there you go. You can see it's putting it on the top. Now, it's also going to try to put it on a place that I already have it, which is okay, right? If it recuts it, no harm, no foul. All right, I'll go back to my home view, and I'm going to click OK. And there we go. We have the basics of it done. All right, now let's just give it a little bit more flair. Uh-oh. You can see I have a little bit of a warning. You can see, yep, that I have a triangle in the bottom right, and my second one has a warning on it. So I want to take care of that because that means if I don't, it might not turn out very well. So I'm going to right-click on this guy in my timeline, and I'm going to choose Edit Feature. And I just know from experience that is a compute thing. That's basically saying, hey, your compute option didn't work. So if adjust doesn't work for you, what I would do is I would identical. And then click OK. And there you go. You can see my warning disappeared. All right, so let's give this guy a little bit more flair. Let's go back to the front face. I'm going to add a sketch. And I'm going to add a sketch right there to the front of the little tiny cube on the inside. So make sure that when you put that sketch on there that it's right on the smallest cube, the innermost cube. Okay, and maybe I'll zoom in a little bit because what I'm going to do is I'm in sketch mode, and I can tell because I have the word sketch highlighted in blue and underlined. Let's go to create, and I'll show you the fast way to make text now. I know we spend a lot of time making our initials the long way. Here's the easy way. It's with this text option. I'll click on that, and then it wants me to draw a text box. So I'm just going to kind of draw a box somewhere inside that cube. All right. And what I'm going to type is, I will just type my name. So over here in the text menu, there's a little box that opens up. You can type your name. I'll just go Sean. And then I'm going to hold Shift and hit Enter. That lets me put a new line, and I'll type Conaway. C-O-N, I can't spell my own name. A-W-A-Y. All right, and you can see that's way too big for that little tiny cube. So what I can do right here is go down to the text height. Let's try a text height of 3. That's still too big, so I might have to play around with that too. Still, and then 1. Okay, so it's going to take a text height of 1 for me. You might have different luck with your name. And I'm going to use some of these alignment options. I'm going to go align center and align middle, so it kind of puts it right in the middle of that cube. And maybe I'll try to go, all right, maybe the text height should be 1.5, maybe 1.7. I'm just going to try to get it as big as I can. 1.8, 1.9. Yeah, 1.9 looks pretty good. And then I can choose a pretty font too. So you could choose all kinds of different fonts, whatever's installed. I like this American typewriter. I'll go with that. And yeah, it still fits, so I got to make sure that it still fits, and then I will click OK. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this sketch, and then from my sketches folder, let's go ahead and just rename that sketch into text. All right, and yeah, I'm going to choose extrude, so E on my keyboard. Let me get rid of this profile here. I don't want the whole face to extrude. I just want my letters. So I'm going to make sure that I have a blank profile here, and then I'm going to hover over a letter until it's highlighted. And then all that text is highlighted, and I want to make sure that it's a cut operation, and it goes a 1 millimeter cut. Let's do that. Oh, yeah, okay, so here I have to go -1, so it cuts into, yeah, there we go. I can see the red for the cut now. Yep. And I will click OK. There we go. I basically signed this Turner Cube with my name. It's kind of fun. And the last thing I want to do is I just want to kind of make the cube look how I want. So I'll right-click on my body. I'll do Appearance, and here you can do whatever you want, right? I'm going to make mine out of wood. I want you to make yours out of whatever, and then we'll be done. Let's see here. Oop, I can't see anything today. So here's wood. Oh, that bar is going too crazy here. Wood, and let's just choose a nice, let's just choose a nice oak. So I will click on oak, and I will drag it over here over onto cube, and then I'll right click on it because the scale is too big, and I'll change the scale. I'll just scale it down so it looks more like oak, and oh man, that looks really nice. I'll click done. I will click close, and of course I will not forget to click my save button, and there we go. We have our very own custom Turner Cube. All right, Again, this is one of my favorite things to make. Some of the new tools that I hope you've learned were this circle pattern and hitting S to search for things, and then finding even like your parameters, which are the list of custom rules. And then we renamed some of her parameters, and we used those to make our Turner cube. All right, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to see yours.